What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog back in Historic for Minotaur Aggro Tribal. So yeah, we're not doing the big old 8 mana whatever search for a bunch of Minotaurs and all that big stuff. We're just super low to the ground aggro, straight up aggro here. So obviously Ahn-Crop Remaster, we got a bunch of new Minotaurs. Neheb the Worthy, so we got another Neheb on Arena here. This one's a 1 black and red for a 2/2 first strike. Legendary, that's why we're just running the 3 copies here. Other Minotaurs you control have first strike, it's pretty sweet. And as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, the Minotaurs you control get +2/+0, so that's pretty sweet anthem effect. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, each player discards a card. So that's why we want to play super low to the ground, because we want to dump out our hand with creatures and spells, and then, so that way the discard effect doesn't, trigger doesn't really affect us as much, or if at all. And hopefully it'll just punish our opponent if they're holding up removals or sweepers or their big planeswalker spells that they haven't been able to get down yet. And yeah, just try to punish them with that. So we're mostly red because that's where most of the good Minotaurs are, and we're just kind of splashing black because obviously Neheb is black, and some good removal spells and things like that are black. We also got a Rageblood Shaman from Jumpstart. But Jumpstart wasn't quite enough Minotaur support, but now Ahn-Crop, we've got lots of sweet new Minotaurs. So 3 mana, 1 red, 2/3 trample. Other Minotaurs you control get +1/+1 and trample. So nice little Lord effect there, especially with Neheb. First strike, trample, +1/+1, +2/+0. If you have both of them out at the same time, it gets pretty sweet. Ahn-Crop Crasher, just amazing Minotaur. 3/2 haste, you can exert it, and when you do, target creature can't block this turn. So when it exerts, that means you don't get to untap it on your next untap phase. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. But basically, we're just trying to be super aggressive and get in for damage wherever we can. And Ahn-Crop Crasher can make it so it's kind of pseudo removal, right? Your opponent can't block with one of their best creatures, basically. All right, what's got Earthshaker Khenra? Not a Minotaur, but obviously the 2-drop slot is a little lacking. And this is just a fantastic creature that really synergizes what we're trying to do. Obviously works extremely well with Ahn-Crop Crasher because it's a 2/1 with haste for 2 mana. When it comes down, target creature with power less than or equal to its power can't block this turn. So your opponent's stupid Arboreal Grazer, their 0 power Grazer can't block. Obviously that can be pretty annoying for decks like this. We can get around that. With Earthshaker Khenra, now they can't block. Whatever their small creatures that they played. And it's got Eternalize 6. So if your opponent's playing tons of removal, well, you can just Eternalize this for 6 mana and you get a 4/4. And it has the same enter the battlefield effect. So that's a pretty nice way to kind of close out some games here as well. Alright, other 2-drop Minotaurs here. We have Burning-Fist Minotaur. It's a 2/1 first striking Minotaur. Not super impressive, but it's decent, right? And it's got the activated ability for 1 in red to discard a card, and it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So, you know, we dumped our hand, we filled out the battlefield with tons of Minotaurs. Maybe we killed a couple things already. Now we're empty-handed, we draw a land. We can go to combat, hold up that land, see how our opponent blocks, and maybe discard a card to get through for some additional damage. Especially if we have our lords out, that can be pretty insane. Bloodrage Brawler is a 4/3 for 2. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, enters battlefield, we have to discard a card. So it's a little awkward sometimes. Don't always want to play this on turn 2, maybe discard your lord or a removal spell that you might need. So it's a little awkward sometimes. But it is still, you know, a 4-power creature on turn 2, so that works pretty well in most situations. And obviously, if you top deck this and you're nothing else in hand, then you don't mind playing this out as a 4/3 that you don't have to discard anything. Goblin Banneret, not a Minotaur, but we don't have anything else in the 1-drop slot that really fits here. But this seemed like it was the most reasonable option. I mean, you could consider like a Fervent Champion or something like that, but Banneret seems pretty sweet because it's a 1/1 for 1, it has Mentor, and you can pop it up for 2 mana to give it +2/+0 on the end of turn. Obviously, we have lots of, you know, our Burning-Fist Minotaur is 2 power, Earthshaker Khenra is 2 power, and that sort of thing. Even the Rageblood Shaman is just only a 2 power, and Neheb. So all these kind of 2-powered creatures, well, you pump up your Banneret to 3/1, and it's going to mentor those other creatures. So that's pretty sweet. So Mentor means you get a +1/+1 counter on that creature with less power. So that's pretty sweet. Alright, so rounding out our deck, we do have 3 Angrath Rampages in removal. Obviously, we have like Ars decks and some other kind of hexproof type creatures that you have to be a little bit consider and play around. Well, this gets around that because we don't target their creature, we force them to sacrifice it, so they can't protect it. Even, you know, Mono Blue Tempo have lots of protection spells and, you know, that sort of thing. Also is removal for planeswalkers and artifacts. Just the versatility is pretty sweet. Heartless Act for some targeted removal. You know, we have the Earthshaker Khenra. Also running 3 shocks here, so we have ways to kind of deal with some of the early creatures. Or Heartless Act kind of scales up and can hit those questing beasts, those Elder Gargoyles, and that sort of thing. So we can kind of keep the ground clear on our opponent's side and just keep swinging through for damage as quickly as possible. So running the 3 shocks, we can kill, if our opponent's running small creatures we need to clear the way in the early turns, we can shock that. Otherwise it can just be reach to help finish off our opponent's life total. And the other card here is Fruit of Tizerus. It's kind of additional copies of shock. However, it's mostly just in here because the Bloodrage Brawler wants us to discard a card. Well, this kind of lets us, gives us some discard fodder for that. Same thing with like Neheb, each player has to discard a card. So we do have some ways that we're forced to discard a card, even the Burning-Fist Minotaur. So we wanted to fit in some discard fodder, and Fruit of Tizerus was kind of the most reasonable option. 1 mana sorcery, target player loses 2 life, so it's basically a really bad version of shock. However, it has escape, so 3 and a black, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So you discard this, and then late game you can just escape it and still get that value. So you don't necessarily mind discarding this, obviously. All right, mana base. There's 21 lands. Try to keep it low as possible, so we have to be careful with our opening hands of what we keep. But we do have the Castle Locthwain as a 1-of, since we're mostly red. We can just barely justify keeping this. We have, obviously in Historic, we have lots of good dual lands, so it seems fine to just run at least a 1-of, because tons of removal in Historic, so you will need to dig your way out of those situations. Just the 2 basic swamps, 2 Castle Embereth, because we are trying to be very aggressive and mostly red, so we're comfortable playing 2 of these. 8 mountains, we got the 4 Blood Crypts and the 4 Dragonskull Summits. Sideboard, we got 3 Thoughtseize, 3 Grafdigger's Cage, 3 Abrade, a couple Davriels, 2 Midnight Reaper, and 2 Rampaging Ferocidon. So pretty self-explanatory when you want to bring these in, obviously against life gain, against sweepers. When they shatter our sky or wrath our board, we can just we just have a 3/2 out that can draw us cards, and if for some reason they don't have it, well, we have a 3-power creature on board that can help us get in for additional damage. So, and Davriel, of course, helps with the discard against the mid-range and control decks. Abrade, just we're sort of against like the mono-red matchups, be able to destroy creatures, or we can hit their Ember Cleaves and things like that. Grafdigger's Cage works fantastic against like the Muxus style decks, and Thoughtseize, of course, is just fantastic against control and mid-range. All right, we'll jump into some matches, see how we do. All right, against FT Avaris. Go first, absolutely. That's capable. A couple creatures, a couple kill spells. Alright, so we gotta try to pass through this priority so they don't maybe notice we have this shock open. Alright, not a creature. I think we just shocked them since we got the Khenra and we got the Heartless Act. It's kind of awkward. Hopefully we draw like something we can discard here. No. So we can't play Castle Locthwain because we don't have a. We can't have a untapped land here. Island. All right, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna ditch the castle. We don't need 3 lands just yet. It's a little awkward. Probably gonna draw land. Just hope we don't get punished for discarding the castle. But I think it's worth it in this spot, since our opponent's off to a pretty slow start. Fabled passaging their way into some lands. Alright, looks like Azoria so far, and we found a 3rd land. Obviously Castle Locthwain's just better. So if they do have a bunch of board wipes, we do have the Khenras that can Eternalize, and we're already 3 lands here, so we're halfway there. Opponent's down to 12, so that Bloodrage Brawler on turn 2, putting in work. I could have exile removal here as well, Settle the Wreckage, enchantment, exile removal, which I don't have many good options for. Kind of nice to maybe put some Farika's Libations in the sideboard, but I'm not quite sure that's good enough. 3 mana open could be counterspell, but we're gonna go for it. We're here, pedal to the metal, all in, turn them sideways. Either they have it or they don't. So Earthshaker Khenra says that you have to target a creature. So if the opponent has nothing out, you just target your own. No big deal. Seal away, sure. Take our Blood Rage. Still hit true for 4 here, down to 8. Obviously, if they have 4 mana here, it's pretty awkward. Oh, they're missing lands. Okay. Alright, if they have another seal away, then so be it. Good Blood Rage, but we're already representing 4 lethal here, so we're just gonna hold up. opponent missed line drop, so we'll take it. That's what aggro decks should do. Your opponent doesn't draw what they need, should be punching them. Alright, so obviously they're on at least Azorius. No, well, Thoughtseize, there we go. So they're at least Azorius. They could be Esper. I mean, they just had just a really terrible opening hand. So we don't have a great idea what our opponent is up to. Alright, so we probably want those. Now what do we got? So our curve has gone up a little bit. So probably maybe take out, shave off a couple 3-drops and a couple removal spells. And then we'll just kind of see what they have. Fortunately, we kind of killed our opponent before we knew what they were doing, which isn't terrible, but does make sideboarding awkward. So we know they're going to be having wraths and lots of removal. That's kind of guaranteed from what we saw. The question is, were they missing a color, or what their situation was? All right, hand seems pretty reasonable. The Blood Rage is a little awkward, but I think we don't typically have turn 1 plays that we care about, so we'll probably just Banneret into Thoughtseize, or maybe save Thoughtseize for a couple more turns. I think I like the idea of getting some pressure on them, at least. There we go for the Blood Rage or Burning-Fist Minotaur. I think it's worth getting a couple creatures down first before we try to hit them with the Thoughtseize. That's a Castle Embereth. And it really sucks discarding these lands. We could pump it up, get in for 3, guaranteed. Well, I think I'd rather grab another creature. Yeah, this is awkward. Blood Rage. What do we discard? What do we discard? It's Burning Fist. I think a 3rd land and an Embereth probably worth another 2-drop. If they just go tap land, then we'll just go Rageblood Shaman, and then we can Thoughtseize turn after. Maybe grab a Shatter or Settle from them, or Wrath of God. Untap land. Okay, so they could have a COA. Don't love that. So we can activate Banneret for 2 mana and Thoughtseize. I think we'll do that. So if it's a seal away, we'll probably just take that away just to push maximum damage right now. If they want to counter it, that's fine too. Alright, so they have a Petty Theft. So they have 2 more lands in hand. So they're gonna... That's a lot of mana. They can bounce something, that's fine. We'll just take the Shatter. Alright, we'll swing. Oh, they're gonna Brazen Borrow or something here. Probably the Bloodrage Brawler. Oh, I think I'd rather cast it and ditch a Rageblood Shaman. Yeah, this is why the Bloodrage Brawler is not a very good Magic card. So we're putting ourselves in a really rough spot by having to discard 2 things. But I mean, our opponent's not really doing too much. We've got rid of their Shatter of the Sky. They have a Sphinx's Revelation to draw some cards. They have a Brazen Borrower to put some counter pressure on us if they shock in with a Hallowed Fountain. But they can't block our creatures. Can only block creatures with flying. And they're still a couple turns away from a Teferi, which they're probably going to curve out to anyway. Since they're a control deck, they should be having 1 land in the next couple draws. Whatever they do, they're having to think about it. So not looking too good for us right now. Having to discard those 2 cards, probably going to be our downfall. Maybe pumping the Banneret would have been better than just hard casting the Blood Rage. Maybe we should have just pumped the Banneret, gone in for 3, then played Rageblood Shaman into Rageblood Shaman, and then have another Blood Rage Brawler as a follow-up when we're empty-handed. Might have been the better play. Opponent disconnected. We're gonna play our creatures. Not sure why they just kind of timed out there and didn't play a land. But we're the aggro deck, so we're not going to think about it too much. We're just going to jam creatures and turn them sideways. That is what we came to do. So I'm not going to feel bad for a control deck. Don't feel bad for them at all. Alright, Banneret, of course, is a Goblin, not a Minotaur, but the Rageblood Shaman will get the boost. So representing 10 points of damage. Let's see, Embereth. Yeah, we're still missing a couple lands to activate Embereth and pump the Banneret, so we're not quite lethal. And of course, the Rageblood Shaman doesn't really work with the Banneret, so maybe the Bloodrage Brawler was a better play just to put maximum pressure on the opponent. But since they're timing out over there, then it just doesn't matter. Obviously, getting rid of Shatter was pretty clutch. So even right now, our opponent should be on 4 lands, but they'd have had to shock in, so that probably would have been bad for them. So unless they drew like some Glacial Fortresses or other kind of untapped lands. So, yeah, I'm taking it. Alright, it's Tad Skosh. There to go first. Beautiful. Oh man, double Dragonskull Summit. That's a super slow start. I mean, double Earthshaker Khenra is pretty sweet. We have a Shock and Heartless Act. It might be a little slow, but we do have some powerful cards that can kind of make up for it. So we'll see, and just hope we draw untapped land. So obviously we're going to lead with a Summit here, just because we have no other choice. It's possible our opponent just has tapped land as well. If they do like a Llanowar or something like that here on turn 1, then we got the Shock. So not terrible, but not ideal. Oh, they're just going to Shock in Steam Vents so they can opt. Okay, opponent, you can opt. Surprising. Okay, so we don't know what they're on yet. Could be Izzet, could be Jeskai, could be Grixis. I always thought the opt was pretty not worth it in Grixis list. I think it must be control if they're running Blast Zone. Triple Earthshaker. Well, we'll run it out there. See what happens. Could have a counterspell, could have a Shock. Essence Scatter. Gotta love it. A main deck Essence Scatter. Top-notch player over here. Counter all your spells until your opponent concedes. Another Essence Scatter. Oh, just a Shock. Scorching Dragonfire. Petty Theft. Wow, they took 2. Anticipate. No idea what our opponent is up to. Essence Scatter and Anticipate. Not commonly played cards, so... A Fabled Passage might give us some more insight. Wow, they're opting before they crack the Fabled Passage. That's curious. I think if I was looking for more action, I would definitely crack the passage first. But maybe they just want to hold up and see kind of what we're up to first. Yeah, we're going to Shock in, and we're going to Earthshaker Khenra number 2, or 3, I guess. Number 2 on board, 3 total. Shock the first one, you got it. You got another way to deal with this. Yeah, they're going to crack their Fabled Passage, so we're going to have to sit here with this on the stack while they figure out what they're doing. Oh, we're going to Bloodrage Brawler, discard a Heartless Act, so we don't need 2 since our opponent's not playing creatures. At least not yet. Could have a Sweeper, but Gotta put some pressure on them. They just had to crack the field past with something on the stack. They just had to do it with something on the stack. There you go. You got me. Look at that anticipate. Alright, so representing 6 damage, so you got them on a 2-turn clock. But they got 5 cards in hand. Got double anticipate to kind of fix some, dig for some answers. So they are on Grixis. Grixis Pyromancer. Okay, so they have a kill spell. Nope. Seems like a very convoluted version of Young Pyromancer. I'm not sure I understand Blast Zone in this style of list. Unfortunately, our opponent has pretty easy blocks here, but well, we're gonna force the action. We're at 5 lands, so we don't hate getting a Earthshaker in our graveyard, but they chumped 4 damage from the Blood Rage, so they're just trying to preserve the life total at this point. So I guess if you're running Pyromancer, Opt makes sense, but yeah, Grixis seems pretty awkward, especially Blast Zone. Like, what are you trying to hit with Blast Zone that you can't otherwise get with Grixis colors, Counter Magic, or whatever? Essence Scatter, like reactive spells seem pretty bad in a Pyromancer list as well. Like, that's why that Rakdos version of Pyromancer is so good. Alright, not what we're looking for, but we're just gonna keep swinging. Got them 2 cards in hand. They're not killing our Earthshaker, they're preventing damage from Bloodrage Brawler, and they're still swinging with their Pyromancer because they don't want to block with it. Oh yeah, they're getting rid of our Bloodrage Brawler. You got it, opponent. Anything else? Well, we could escape it. We have 4. Get rid of Shock, Heartless Act, whatever. Obviously, you don't want to exile the Earthshaker Khenras. If we draw untap land, we can get those down next turn, and don't win the game. We can only make one thing that can't block, but if they keep it swinging in with the Pyromancer and don't have an answer for the Earthshaker, then yeah. And it's Eternalized, so it gets around Essence Scatter. We're not actually casting it. So they refuse to block with the Pyromancer, that's why I keep swinging in with it, but down to 4, they're in a pretty precarious position. I'm actually going to hold back. The upside of swinging with Banneret next turn. What if they have a counterspell or something for this? They seem to have something. I'm gonna pass turn. The upside of swinging with a Banneret and activating it if we miss a land drop is way better than just trying to throw away the Khenra right now. Obviously, we're looking for a 6th land at this point to eternalize one of these Khenras. Okay, they get one of their spells back. They could shock something. Make another 1/1. At this stage of the game, it might just be worth exiling these just to keep Fruit of Tizerus in. So we've used 1 shock. So we got 2 more in the deck. If they just keep Dracus back, they don't have we don't have good attacks. There's the land. We're going for it. So we're gonna target the Dracus and swing out. So we got Earthshaker Khenra number 2 next turn to Eternalize. They can kill our Banneret and our Khenra. But then they're taking 4 from the Earthshaker and they're dead, so yeah, you kind of have to block something. You take 3, go down to 1 here. Sure. Okay, they lose a Pyromancer. 2 cards in hand, 3 mana open. Okay, no tricks. Alright, so they kill the Khenra, so now we have 2 Khenras to Eternalize. What was that? 3, 4 Anticipates now in their top half of their deck. My opponent is highlighting all the cards, trying to make their decision here. It's the 5 mana open, 3 cards in hand. Love it if they were empty-handed here. We're going to Eternalize. Not sure what you're holding in hand there, opponent. But your Lord Dracus cannot block. We're tapped out, so you can do your thing now. I love Arena sometimes. I love Arena. They tried to Blast Zone on 2 to kill our Earthshaker Khenras, but they're Eternalized tokens, so there's 0 CMC. That was funny. Alright, so they're gonna tons of removal, so we probably want these Midnight Reapers to at least draw some cards and try to replace our creatures. Lord Dracus returns cards, so not actually casting them. If I was more worried about Pyromancer, we could bring this in to try to ping our opponent for playing having a bunch of tokens out with the Pyromancer. Still could be an option. I don't imagine they have life gain. We're already bringing the Midnight Reapers. I think I favor the card draw than trying to punish our opponent. Not quite sure we can burn them out with Rampaging Ferocidons and whatnot. Thoughtseize and Davriel are tempting since they're drawing lots of cards and stuff. Obviously our Minotaur Lords aren't as good once we start bringing in Midnight Reapers and things like that, so I think I'm fine with shaving just 1 of each of those off. I mean, 3 is almost as good as 4, and then of course this being legendary, we're fine with trimming 1 off here as well. Cause don't love having multiple legendaries in aggro list, especially you have 1 in your hand and you can't cast it. Feels bad. Rampage is pretty medium actually. Let's take that out and bring in some more targeted removal. I think Abrade is better to that way they can't just sack their token and keep their Pyromancer alive. This way we can target the Pyromancer, we can target the Dracus, and that sort of thing. Alright, seems pretty reasonable. Just need a 3rd land to get to the Midnight Reaper, but Shock, Heartless Act, Abrade with a turn 1 Banneret seems okay. 2 lands, including each of our colors. So not a super aggressive start from us, but since we're on the draw anyway, we're kind of more in the control position. So it seems pretty reasonable from that perspective. Okay, they got Pro Red. That kind of sucks. So we're going to have to fire out this Heartless Act to get rid of that, otherwise we're not going to be able to pressure them with these red Minotaurs and Goblins. Heartless Act is the only thing in our deck that hits that. So that was a nice little sideboard card. But now our opponent's not really doing much. I'm going to go Midnight Reaper. I want to kill our Banneret in response. Nope, they're going to let the Reaper resolve. Maybe they'll kill that. To get the draw card at least. So we knew they had some removal. They had 3 open mana. Ahn-Crop is pretty good. Probably just get these Bannerets down. We do have triple red. So we can Banneret, leave Shock open to kill a Pyromancer or something. We could just pump the Banneret, but it's going to feel bad if we sink our mana into that and then they just kill it. It's like our opponent's got a pretty cheeky deck, so they could have sideboarded in like some Flame Sweeps or that kind of a thing. But if they do, so be it. Hopefully they just creature here and then we can Ahn-Crop. Or Shock probably kills most of the creatures anyway. Lord Drakus has 3 toughness. If it's another Cerulean Drake, then we can't target it with Ahn-Crop or Shock or Abrade, so that's a little awkward. And of course protection means it doesn't die. I guess we get over Abrade. Not dropping the Ahn-Crop, and Shock we can at least fire it off here. Opponent with the cheeky play, drawing some cards. You got it. Feels bad. Definitely want to let Abrade answer some of their threats. Another Cerulean Drake. Well, that's gonna hurt a little bit. Untap land would probably be ideal to Ahn-Crop and pump up the Bannerets. Whichever one doesn't get blocked. They can kill a Banneret here. Why would you block the Ahn-Crop Crasher and not kill a Banneret? That's not what I would do. I would block a Banneret and kill one. You probably have a way to kill the Ahn-Crop. Yeah, like... So you're trying to do Grixis, Prowess, Pyromancer, like, the opponent's deck's kind of all over the place. But they're keeping us at bay. So I guess I can't really say too much, right? It's definitely not how I would run it. It's interesting, though. Alright. Well, let's keep turning them sideways. Now you block a Banneret. Why? Could have done that before combat just to maybe pump a Khenra. Maybe that would have been better. All the Cerulean Drakes. So you're really good against certain matchups and you're terrible against other matchups. Got it. Well, Fruit of Tizerus. I said it was a bad card. There it is. They can sack the Drake, though, to counter it. Cast it again with Escape and make him sack the other Drake. So you've already had Escape for Kroxa. Could just swing and activate both of our Bannerets. Let's try that. Then kill one. We gotta kill their Stormwing. Yeah, it only affects the power. So they can escape Kroxa, we take 3. Alright, we're in a pretty awkward spot here. The Cerulean Drake is actually working pretty well against us. Fruit of Tizerus could have been the game winner, but the Cerulean Drake with activated ability. And now Kroxa might just get us, these Cerulean Drakes. Alright. Earthshaker comes back as a 4/4, but they can easily block it with the Kroxas. Alright, we're going to keep firing this off. 1, 2, 3. Make him sack. but they're hitting us for 9. Yep. Yeah, it's super frustrating. We're not technically dead, but I don't see how we're going to be able to race this Croxa now. Cerulean Drakes. It's a nice sideboard card in the right matchup. Alright, another Croxa. I'm good. That was pretty annoying. They found all 3 of their Cerulean Drakes too. That has to be a sideboard card. That seems like... It seems pretty rough that you're going out of your way to sideboard that many Cerulean Drakes. Like, you must be really bad against certain matchups if you do that. Sideboard is always kind of a balancing act, but when you're all in on like a particular matchup, it just kind of... It means you're terrible against other matchups. You're already 3 colors. That makes things a little awkward to begin with, I would imagine. Well, we're gonna shock here. We need to be the aggressive. So we got Banneret plus Khenra. If we miss land for some reason, we at least have an Abrade. They could just have a Croxa though. Innocent Blood. We're gonna hold the Bloodrage. Don't want to discard anything. I hope we draw land. Feels awkward spending our turn 3 on this when we could have played a 3-drop, but I mean, Jadar Arcanist, if they don't have a creature, they can't really use it, because then they have to sacrifice their own thing. It's pretty bad, but the way our opponent's going, they might do it. And it still screws up our game plan enough that I don't really want to take that chance. So I feel like the opponent has a pretty interesting deck idea, but I'm not sure it's quite where it, how I would run it. I'll just say that. I mean, it's putting work against us. It's frustrating our deck. So yes, they found a plains. Ghost Quarter. I guess they want to deal with utility lands, but why not just Field of Ruin? So Rageblood Shaman not too great here without any actual Minotaurs on the field, which is why we shaved one. So our opponent obviously has a kill spell here. We're going to save the Ahn-Crop. We're just going to swing 5 here, or try to. They're going to kill something. Okay, we get to draw a card. Let's just Burning-Fist. Let's save the Bloodrage. We could discard the Fruit, but something like that could have actually won us that last game. They didn't have all of their Cerulean Drakes. That was super obnoxious. Alright, we're gonna Fruit here, just to use up our mana. I want to save this Ahn-Crop for kind of the last minute to push through for lethal. If our opponent just wants to play out a creature and just hope that's good enough to hold down the fort, we're going to Ahn-Crop so that they can't. Because that represents, we have the 3 plus the 3 and the 2. So we're representing 8 points of damage right here. So we're going to put them at 2. And we have the Tizerus next turn. Stuck on 3 lands. For a 3-color deck that's trying to do all the things they're doing, running these utility lands is Blast Zones and Ghost Quarters. Yeah, I imagine you have a lot of games like that when you're doing that kind of deck, and that's exactly why that's not how I would run that deck that way. But maybe they're still playtesting or building. Pretty cool. Something a little bit different. Nice different take on the Pyromancer. Not going to complain about that. Just kind of observing for anybody who's maybe interested in that style of deck, and mostly just for myself, because obviously Pyromancer seems like a pretty interesting card to build on. Kind of looked at some different builds that obviously aren't just the Rakdos version that we've all seen, and just kind of one of the better decks in Historic. But yeah, we're gonna stop it right there. Pretty reasonable showing for the deck, I think. Obviously, Minotaurs aren't the best tribe, but it's fun. We got some nice support here in Amonkhet, and looks like there's some more coming out in Zendikar. So maybe revisit Minotaurs here in the near future. Obviously, we've seen the kind of those big 5 and 6, 7, 8 mana spells, trying to do combo off with Minotaurs, but we're just trying to play it straight up as kind of an aggro list here. And yeah, ran pretty well as far as aggro lists go. Earthshaker Khenra, not a Minotaur, but obviously fits in with the game plan. The Eternalize is super powerful, very fantastic card. Did tons of work back in Amonkhet Standard, and still is a very viable card on Historic. Same thing with Ahn-Crop Crasher. And it being a Minotaur, of course, makes it on theme, and it works extremely well with the Lord effects as well. Don't really see Neheb do too much, or the Rageblood Shaman, but when you do get these online, it's pretty sweet. And yeah, just enough removal here. You can definitely play around with your package as far as Rampage, Heartless Act, and things like that. Fruit of Tizerus, not a very good card, but you see how it was actually I didn't feel completely terrible. I didn't feel like a completely wasted slot. So having that utility there with the Bloodrage Brawler seems like it could be pretty reasonable. And of course, sideboard, kind of tempting to put in like maybe some Freakish Libations to have some answers to like maybe shrines or something like that. But I think even in that matchup, you're probably just trying to race them before they can get enough shrines online for it to really matter. And of course, it's any removal heavy matchup. Midnight Reaper seems like it's pretty solid, but maybe you just take it out for Libation there, maybe Davriel. But yeah, there's so many mid-range control style lists that you want to kind of punish. So Davriel and Thoughtseize seem like they work pretty well. Of course, Grafdiggers is a must with Muxus, and until they finally ban that, it seems like it's just way too powerful. But that's just my opinion. Abrade, still a premium removal spell. I think hitting artifacts for targeted removal on instant speed for like Ember Cleaves and things like that absolutely makes this playable. Also be able to kill creatures, 3 damage, so it works fantastic against those mono red matchups, Gruul, and things like that. And Ferocidon, you have to have answers for life gain, especially when you're in an aggro list. Tibalt, not really where you want to be. We don't have any life gain in our deck, so we don't care that players can't gain life, and then it's Menace as well, so just a nice aggressive creature and just solid card all around. But obviously sideboard is always something you can tweak to what you're seeing. I found like this has worked fairly well for me. Mana base, having the Blood Crypt and Dragonskull Summits are really a must. You can play play all your spells as consistently as possible, shocking in, and then you have the Dragonskull Summits. Obviously the 1 Castle Locthwain, 2 Embereth seems pretty reasonable as well. Didn't really get to see those in action, but obviously there's going to be matchups where those can certainly make a difference for you. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.